And we're live. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at Tuesday at 2. This is our platform where we get to learn from other women. We learn their story, we learn about their business, and it's an opportunity to not only share her story, but celebrate her story. And today we are so excited to have Tami Matheny here because she is a coach, an inspirational coach that works with athletes. And what I love is how she's had a focus in her coaching practice that starts with the athletes, whether it's the actual athlete, the coaches, and it's translated to how those same skills work for many other aspects in business. So Tami, I am so excited you're here. I'm so excited to learn from you, and welcome to Tuesday at 2.
Thank you, Marcy. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, we love our first question to ask a little bit about your journey of how you got to where you are with launching this business and getting into this niche space.
It has been a journey full of turns and curves and hills, but I wouldn't trade it. I started off going to grad school to be anything but a coach. Growing up, my father was a football coach. I was that little girl from Remember the Titans that literally would sit and watch, film with her dad. And he said, please do anything but coach. So all through college, I wasn't going to coach. But, one thing leads to another. And I got into coaching only to satisfy an internship position for grad school. That was all. I was I'm going to do my internship and then I'll be out of it. 15 years after that, I transitioned into a mental game coach, leaving the tennis world behind. And I just enjoyed the physical, the mental aspects of coaching, but most importantly, the relationships. So it's been a lot of twists and turns, but again, it's been a great journey.
Tami, what is a mental game coach?
It is, I like to compare it to a life coach instead of a psychologist. So it's not technically a sports psychologist, but a life coach for athletes. How do we take what you have and make it stronger? Help you build confidence, help you overcome adversity. Also, I like to compare it to a strength and conditioning coach for the mind. Just any way I can help the athlete's mind become stronger.
Well, you started with tennis as a background, and I can't imagine a more difficult sport, especially in the youth world where, you have so many times, you have a lot of adults in your world helping you and coaching you. But then when you're on the tennis court, you can't talk or make even eye contact with the player on the court. So can you just share a little bit about your personal mindset, how you became like within the world of tennis? Just give us some insight to what that's like and how you need to have mental toughness as a player.
Oh, you're like on an island by yourself. It is such an isolated mental experience that if you haven't developed that foundation before you play, then you are prone to fall apart. And if you've ever watched tennis, you're sure to have seen someone fall apart on the court. I mean, even the pros do. So it's a very important aspect of it. And then when I was coaching tennis, I would tell my players if they were physically and mentally stronger than their opponent, they had a better chance of winning. They had to have the skills, but I didn't care how good their skills were as long as they were physically and mentally, strong to help overcome. It's kind of ironic, though, when I first got into tennis, I had an extremely bad attitude. I could not stand to lose. And my dad would take me out to play and he would beat me early on. Then I would start to beat him, but I would still get mad because I thought he was letting me. And so I threw my racket several times and he gave me a rubber band and I had to wear that rubber band. And every time I had a negative thought, I had to pop it. So I still use my little rubber band ball to help athletes with, focusing on the positives.
What a great story. So how do you use the rubber band ball? I'm curious about that.
Okay. Well, I give everyone a rubber band. And so when you have a negative thought, the idea is to pop it and replace it with a positive or productive. I call it P square, positive or productive thought. And, you know, the band starts to become a visual symbol of trying to focus on the positives. I believe that we can't help if a negative thought comes in our brain. What we can do about it is how much energy we give it. And so learning to shift your mind to a positive or productive thought. So the rubber band's just a cute little symbol.
I think it's perfect. I do love the symbolic gesture of having it.
Yes, I'm laughing. I see a fellow teammate, Julie Nee, there, and she's popping her rubber bands.
I thought I was frozen. I will say I was worried about the storms in Florida right now. I was like, wait, we're laughing. I'm smiling. I didn't see Julie. That's great. That's awesome. So you had mentioned before the show, and I'm just going to ask, so my tennis partner, so growing up, I did enjoy playing tennis, but I never was like, competitive at all. And in fact, my tennis partner was often my dad. So what he would do is he'd have me as close to the net in one little corner. So he'd have about 80% of the court and we'd win a lot. He's like, you just stay up there. even when it was my serve, I think we'd switch. So but I do love, you were sharing this story about a proverb you use, and I feel like my dad would like it, but it was about, this is good. Do you mind sharing us a little bit about your practice and how you use that?
This is good is an African folktale that I heard probably 15, 16 years ago when I was still coaching tennis. And it has become my motto in life. I even have bands that I wear every day that say this is good on it. I think you can see it. This is good book I've written. So you can tell it's kind of dominated my life. But the idea comes from this folktale. So there was this king in Africa, and he had his best friend that he kept with him wherever he went, because the best friend would always remind him, this is good. It could be the worst thing happening in the world, and the best friend would be like, no, this is good because whatever. And so they go hunting one day, and he loads the king's rifle for him. Well, it backfires and blows the king's thumb off. The king is irate, and he throws his best friend in jail. All the way to jail, the best friend's like, this is good. He gets to jail. The other guys in jail were like, this isn't good. Your best friend just threw you in jail. Nope, this is good. He's in jail for 1.5 years. And in the meantime, the king goes out on another hunting party. Well, they're captured by a band of cannibals. And the cannibals are going to kill them and eat them one by one. But they were extremely superstitious. And they didn't believe in killing or eating anything that wasn't whole. And they saw he didn't have a thumb, so they let him go. He was like, oh my gosh, my best friend just saved my life. And he runs back to the prison, gets down on his knees, and begs for forgiveness. Please, 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 please forgive me. The best friend, of course, said, this is good. The king says, I know it was good for me. You saved my life, but I've wasted 1.5 years of your life. And the best friend said, no, it was good for me as well. For you see, I could have been with you and eaten and killed by the cannibals. So, you know, a cute or dramatic story, however you want to look at it. But the whole idea of nothing is good or bad till we decide it is. And I think too often in life, we can get stuck dwelling on that immediate result that's negative, that getting stuck in traffic or not getting that job or losing that tennis match, instead of just keeping your brain alive long enough for something different, probably better to come along, whether that's tomorrow or whether that's a week from now or next year. And so it's something, you know, I've developed some exercises around it for my clients and really trying to get them to train their brain to immediately think, okay, what is good about this? What is the opportunity in this?
I know that.
So I hope your dad enjoyed that.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. I know that, you know, there's been a lot of studies out there where if you buy a new white Honda, all of a sudden you see 1,000 white Hondas. You're like, wait, I'm not the only one. But the same thing I've discovered, and I didn't come up with this on my own. I read this somewhere else. But if I look for good things, I see a ton of good things. And it's that shifting your mindset to focus and find the good. And if you see something not as good, you know, to try to frame it in a way that it could be good, and it could be, that there's an outcome that's potentially better than what you might see initially. So I love the idea of, this is good. Like let's look for the good, because when we look for the good, we find the good. If we want to look for the bad, we're going to be in trouble.
You are exactly right. One of my favorite sayings is what you focus on grows. And, that just ties right along into the message you just said.
Yeah. This has been great. So let's suppose you start with a teenager that comes to you and they have some mind block. So we all know teenagers, and we know that they can have some big walls that they put up in front of themselves of what they can and can't do. How do you start with them? But then I want to know really how you coach the parents to be better with resetting the framework that the children need.
Starting with the parents first. My first yeah. Well, I always say it's the parents and the coach that for the reason the athlete needs to come see me, one or the other, if not both. I say that jokingly. But with parents, I think it's really important that they have the communication ahead of time. I hear so many parents tell me, well, my athlete like yells at me or gets frustrated or mad at me when I'm asking them on the way to a meet or a match about it, or afterwards getting in the car. And so I think it's important in a non-emotional time, not right before an event or right after, and having those conversations of, honey, when would you like to talk about it? What do you want to hear from me? And letting the athlete have some feedback about when and how they want messages from their parents. I think too often parents assume or they're trying to be helpful, but it's not necessarily what the athlete might need in that space and that moment in time. So I think it's important to have those conversations. That still is probably not going to answer, the exact way to do it all the time, because those teenage brains are always evolving. So, it's trial and error as well. But at least when they give you that feedback, you're giving them what they're asking for. So I think that's an important thing of trying to teach parents. The second thing that I try to teach anybody is let's stop saying be confident. And I was so guilty of that as a coach. I would tell my athletes, hey, go out and be confident. Well, or hey, come on, you can get through this, just be confident. And what I've realized in working with athletes through the years, that just creates more anxiety and stress, because it's not like they're not trying to be confident. So I think it's more effective to give them one piece of advice that might help their confidence. Something about their self-talk, or what you focus on grows, or, strong body language. So those are the two probably most frequent pieces of advice for parents. The athlete, I like to teach a mental warm-up. So very few, and I find this with business too, I have a mental warm-up before I give a keynote speech, or even before I start working with the client. And very few athletes would be confident without going through their physical warm-up, if they couldn't warm up or move their bodies or touch their equipment. But the same thing, we often just show up in the mood we're in. Some days that might be good, other days that might be bad. But if we have a routine, 5 minutes at most, where we go through steps of getting ourselves mentally prepared, getting our self-talk strong, getting our body language, strong, seeing positive, productive images of ourselves, then that helps us start a lot stronger.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure you've read the books or know about Amy Cuddy's work, that the book Presence. And she quotes this study that was done. I found it fascinating, because I do feel like a lot of times if you want to study, like whether it's law of, focus and positive mindset, athletes are some of the best ones to study, where they can like zero out a crowd of 500,000 people and focus just on, a whole or something like that. But her study that she did, she had 3 groups do foul line shots in the basketball court. And they had the baseline study that they all did. And then one group went to the court every day and practiced. One group did nothing. And then one group went to a conference room and just visualized the same amount of time. So 30 minutes of visualizing it going in. And it ends up the ones that practiced and the ones in the conference room had the exact same progress. I was like, to me, that's like such an incredible study. Because if you combine those two together, like think about how much you would improve.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I teach my athletes the same thing, that visualization is just an extra way to get reps without having to put more physical work in. And when you can combine the two, then that really puts you in the best, position for success.
Yeah, very true. So when you're coaching, what's kind of your favorite, what type of platforms, really, I'm going to ask since post-COVID, what are some of your favorite platforms that you like working with? And then I'll ask the negative question. What do you not like about those same platforms? But give us a little insight about, your coaching practice and how you think how you can connect with clients.
I think the thing that I love the most, and which I have really missed the most during COVID, is going into a team and just being able to immerse in a team, talk with them, give them sessions, but just building those relationships. I'm a very relationship oriented person. And I also find it better. I can help an athlete the more I'm connected with them. And so, like the beginning of August, I get to go to a college and I'll be with them during their preseason. So I'll be at their training sessions where I can talk to them on the sideline. Then they'll have, they call it Tami time, a session where they'll get mental in. Then I go to dinner with them and just having those, one-on-one conversations. So that's by far what I love the most. Mm-hmm. Another aspect I do like is some teams hire me to be on their bench or their sideline during games, and just keeping the team positive or productive and engaged. And it helps the coach just be able to coach. Mm-hmm. So I think anything that's interactive. I enjoy standing up in front of a large room and talking. There's some type of adrenaline that happens, doing that. So again, engaging and being able to talk face to face with people in anything that looks like that is what I love the most.
Yeah, I could imagine. And I just, even as you're talking about it, I feel your energy, like getting excited about it. Can I ask more about if you're on the sideline, like say you're asked to be on the bench, with the team, and all of a sudden it's just like they were up and now they're down and their shoulder, they're not confident. I know I'm not allowed to say that. You can see the body language of the team. What's some of the like game time things you do?
Well, you have to put in the work before, so they know most of them already know what I'm going to say. And so I have been told by many of them that often I'm just a visual reminder of, let's say it's a softball or baseball team and someone comes in after striking out and they're immediately down. And then it's like they see me, and 9 times out of 10, that's enough now for them to get strong. Mm-hmm. And they all know that this is good inside out. So it's asking them, okay, what's good about this? What did you learn from that at bat that's going to help you the next at bat, or something you can tell a teammate that will help a teammate? So it's immediately doing that. Also with my teams, I have this contest that I call Battle of the Bench. And to me, 9 times out of 10, if teams are somewhat equal, the bench that is most engaged is going to win the game. So it's getting them to interact. First of all, if you're on the bench, it keeps you ready if and when you get to go in. Second of all, if you're one of the ones out there competing and your teammates are cheering for you, you're a little bit more committed. You find a little bit more energy to give. And third, it's fun. I mean, I've had some of my best times being with good, battle of the benches and cheering. So that's another thing. If you're down about yourself, immediately turn it to your team and feed your team with energy, and you stop focusing on yourself. And, that concept we can all apply. If I'm having a bad day, if I immediately turn my attention to helping someone else, the day gets better.
100%. That's for sure. How do you encourage strong body language? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. I like to use the visualization of, the old wooden puppets on the string that you could pull up and down. So I like to tell athletes that you're being pulled on that string to be straight up. The females that have ponytails, I tell them I'm pulling on your ponytail to keep the head up. So, one of the first exercises I do with younger athletes is to ask them to show me different body language. Show me what being sad looks like. And that can be kind of cute, depending on how old the kids are. And then asking them to show me a happy body language. Show me a serious, focused body language. Show me a confident body language. So they start to understand and feel what those look like. But it's the shoulders up, head up, shoulders back, and just trying to get them to, I call it be big, have a big body language. And then one thing that I've had to battle with some of the more fixed mindset coaches is to smile. Because when you smile, your entire body relaxes and you're confident.
Yeah,
So true.
It's challenging to get people to smile sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't understand that.
But a lot of coaches hang on to that idea. Oh, they're smiling. That means they don't care, or they're not as focused as they should be. But teaching them that, explaining how that just relaxes every muscle in your body. So.
That's great. And can we translate? So the things you're coaching on body language, and as I hear you working with these teams, I can just only imagine the results you get. And as your business, it went from, primarily sports to now also working in, with corporate teams and leadership coaching and things like that. How does body language, is that something you talk about with your corporate clients and when you're doing teams presentations? Can you share a little more insight on that?
Well, I think body language is important, as important probably in the corporate world as it is in the athletic world. I think it's important with the relationships. The body language you carry when you walk in that door, that conference room, when you walk in your home, sends the message and kind of creates the environment from that moment on. Mm-hmm. And so if I want to be successful in business, then how I carry myself sends the message to my boss, to a client, to a prospective client. And so that's extremely important. I don't want to say it's more important in athletics, but I think in every area of life, it's important.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when you're working with other people, like they feed off of you, there's always that mirroring technique. So if you're working with somebody and then you're down, they're down, it just kind of, it drives the energy the wrong direction.
Yeah, we make assessments, whether we want to admit it or not. And maybe it's subconscious, but we're making an assessment about a person based on their body language before they even speak to us. Mm-hmm. And I think what I like to drive home to people is that your brain's doing the same about yourself. And that's the point I think that we often neglect to really process. So yes, I'm picking up on your body language, but more importantly, my brain's picking up on my body language. And body language and self-talk, to me, are the best business partners, teammates, whatever you want to call it, because they feed off each other. If I have confident body language, it starts to create confident thoughts. If I have confident thoughts, it creates more confident body language. So I think the two go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's such a great way of, it makes so much sense, but I haven't really heard that before in the sense of like how clear you said it and how much they go hand in hand. How about, we'll translate some more. So you talked about like athletes having like a pregame, like a mental pregame. And I think you said you even do this before your keynotes or before a coaching client. Can you share some, some techniques as it relates to work pregame, mental game?
I have an acronym I use. It's called BRAVE. Now I like to start with some music and, and I tell athletes, find the music that's going to help you get in the mood you want. Not a sappy, sad country song that's going to make you sad, but music that creates the mood that you want. And so, I'll have it playing before I'm getting on this Zoom today. And then I run through BRAVE. And the B is for breathe. I like to think about breathing in confidence, breathing out any anxiety, frustration, anything that happened before that I'm hanging on to. R is for recognize. And I'm kind of like doing a computer scan, recognizing the two things I just talked about, your self-talk and your body language. And now is the time to start changing them if they're not where they need to be. And then the A is for am, an I am statement, like an affirmation. Okay. I am a great speaker, or I am great at talking to people. I use that often because when I was in high school, I mean, you would have seen my heart beating through my chest, and I would have been just to sit here and talk through the computer, even much less to stand up on a stage. And so I had to work through it of, I am a good speaker. I am a good speaker. I am a good speaker. And I struggled to say certain words, and I got hung up on that. And I worried about my good old Southern accent. And so I had all of these negative thoughts, and I had to overcome it with, I am good at speaking to people in my own unique way. So I say that am, for others, it could be, I am confident, or, I am a great team player, or whatever it needs to be. And then the V is for visualize. I like to imagine me at my best. What does my best self look like? And get that picture in my head. And then imagine how I'm going to feel afterwards. And then the E is for energy. And that's just making sure I show up with the right energy. I think too often, I know in my past, I would show up with the energy I had, good or bad. If I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, then I might show up with lower energy. Instead of recognizing that at any given moment, we all can create the energy we need. It's just becoming intentional about it. And again, it's a common theme, but two ways you can do that is your self-talk and your body language. If I'm telling myself I'm tired, I'm getting 10% more tired. So when I have weak energy, sometimes I'll tell myself, I'm the Energizer Bunny. I can go all day. I'm the Energizer Bunny. And that's something that I'm constantly talking to, myself. If you work with a team, talking to teammates and cheering them on creates energy. And then the body language, smiling or getting yourself in a strong, confident, position, or moving. Movement creates energy. So just using the talk and the, walk, I call it walk the walk. Talk the talk and walk the walk will create any energy you want. Now, if you're bouncing off the walls and need to come down a little bit, still applying the same two things, deep breathing and relaxing, and just trying to get relaxing thoughts in your head. So it doesn't take as long to run through as it did for me to explain, but yeah, brave is what I use for the mental warm up.
Tami, I love that idea. And I love the idea of the visualization. I know it's so easy to say, it's not always easy to do because, we have that prior, like, oh, what went wrong the last time? And that's where our brain goes. But then we just need to bring it back, right? Just bring it back. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you, what would you tell your younger self? Like, what advice would you give your younger self?
Relax and chill out. I was type A. Breathe. Yeah, breathe. I was the strongest type A person possible. It's ironic, but I have a twin brother and he's probably the exact opposite of me. And my parents used to say, if y'all can just meet in the middle. So I'd like to think I've kind of come more to the middle. But yeah, I took everything too serious and everything was about me. And I've learned that nothing is about me. We have value in life through relationships that we have on earth here. And, there's a lot more positivity and confidence I get from that now.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time. We're going to close the Facebook, but for those of you that are still on live, we're just going to be here and we can all go off mute and have a conversation. So thank you so much for watching Tuesday at 2 with Revel Coach. I'm Alison Nissen, my sister, my partner, my bestest friend, Marcy Stout, and Tami Matheny. Thank you so much for stopping by.